How's it going? This is a quick video going over the tables in the Chocolate Factory dataset, calling it Appendix A. Let's start at the beginning. Going to go in alphabetical order through the 10 tables. Again, 5 of these are simulated, ERP types of tables, and 5 of these are hypothetical models for what you might see in an MES system. Let's start with the bill of materials, right? So this represents the materials that are required to make a product. And this terminology will vary, but at least in this data set, the product is what is being made. The material is what is going into the process to make that material, right? So the operation sequence is the step in the process where that material is being applied. The quantity is how much of that material is required, and then the UOM is always good to have when you have a quantity. So let's just do a quick peek at one of these product IDs. If I say where product ID equals this, and then maybe I order by operation sequence, this is a list of all the materials that go in to make this product, when they go in the process, and how much is used. Okay. The ERP inventory summary. So in a real ERP, inventory is usually scattered across many locations. So I'm calling this an inventory summary table because it purely gives you the number of UOMs, so in this case the number of grams that are in inventory. Right? So for this product, we have, 7 million grams in inventory. So we're good on stock on that part. Okay. ERP products. So this is a list of products in our ERP system and their name and their unit of measure. So obviously in a real ERP system, there'd be tons more data associated with any product. The main thing to take away from this table is that both finished products and materials are the same data structure. And this is pretty consistent across all types of systems, right? An item is an item. A product is a product. Even if it's used in different ways, a lot of their columns are going to be the same. And so these types of business systems will store them in a table like this. Now they might add a column like called, type or stocking type to indicate which products are materials versus finished goods. But things start to get complicated in real ERP systems. For this construct, just make sure you know both types of products are in the same table. Routes. Okay, so a route represents the steps that a product goes through during its processing. So let's look at one specific product and we'll see where product ID equals this, and then maybe order by sequence, always a good idea, right? So we can see that for this product, it goes mixing, cooling, packaging, inspection. And the nice thing here is that the operation name is right there. We'll be talking about that in a bit. Work orders. Okay. So this is one of the most important tables in a manufacturing operation, and it basically represents the current state of work that has happened or needs to happen on the manufacturing floor. So every work order will have an ID number, what product is being made, a date that it was supposed to start, an actual start timestamp. So this is the timestamp for when somebody first opened or started that work order. And then the complete timestamp is when it was finished. So when the last step was finished. Notice that there's nulls, sometimes both, right? If a work order hasn't started, then both columns will be null, or if a work order is in progress, then only one of these, right? The complete will be null. And the same thing goes for the original quantity and the completed quantity. Obviously, a work order hopes to finish all of its material, but oftentimes there are quality reasons why you lose material as you produce something. So knowing the difference between these two columns can be very important for understanding output. Okay. So now we're switching over to the MES tables, right? And so these are tables that are much closer to the actual operation. The ERP is generally higher level data for accounting and tracking purposes, but when you want to get granular and really understand your operation, you're going to need to go to the MES tables. And so the first one, the MES complete logs, is a record of every step being finished in your work orders. So if we look at one specific work order, so let's do this one, and let's order by timestamp, we are going to see how many steps this work had, right? So we can see the first step was completed on July 6th, second one the day after, yada yada. We can see that 5 different operators worked on this work order, and that was across 5 different resources. We'll get into that in a second. And then we can see the quantity diminishing as it goes through. So here is a way that you can calculate much more granular yield metrics by going into the MES data rather than just looking at the ERP data. Okay. Operations, I go over this a little bit in my joins video. Operations represent the types of processing that can occur, right? So I think this table is pretty brief, right? It correlates with the ERP routes table, right? So there's only so many different processing steps that a product can go through. In this factory, there's 5: mixing, inspection, cooling, baking, and packaging. Okay, so that's the sort of high-level step. I'm going to skip down to resources because it relates to operations. When we run this, a resource represents a more granular physical location, or maybe something slightly similar, but usually a physical piece of hardware that is performing that operation, right? So the mixing step might have many mixers where mixing can be performed. So resources offers you traceability as to what machine was used, what workbench was used, what microscope was used. It's a more granular view, but the most important thing to note is that the resources are a set of the same inside of an operation. And so you see this operation ID allows you to join. Maybe you would filter ID equals this. And you can see there's only 2 cooling areas. Okay. Bouncing back, just operators real quick. Very simple table. This might have more information in a real MES, but for this example, it's a way to look up names of who processed a work order. And then finally, very similar to the complete logs, in fact, I think it's almost the exact data structure, is the scrap log. So I can actually copy this code from up here, and when I run this, I'm going to get a record of who scrapped how much material at each step in this process. So it's correlated with the complete logs, can probably be calculated, but in a real MES, you might see information like scrap reason, or maybe there's pictures associated with a scrap, or test data, etc. So scrap logs is a type of table that you'll see in an MES.